Everything is Fine by Great 78. Chapter 3. Soulmates.
Yes, we can go to your new home as soon as we're done here,
Ariel told him, cleaning her fingers of the banana bread crumbs briskly on a paper napkin.
It's a lovely home, designed with your tastes and aesthetic in mind. And the aesthetic of your soulmate, of course, since that person also lives there.
Sorry, did you say soulmate? Draco asked in mild alarm. Ariel looked slightly horrified.
Did I fail to mention that earlier?
Afraid so. I likely would have remembered it, Draco answered dryly. A soulmate. His mind was reeling. In the wizarding world, there existed the concept of soulmates, of course. Typically speaking, it existed in the case of an arranged marriage bond coinciding with the couple actually falling in love. They were rare. Most wizarding pure-blood marriages were simply based on necessity and availability. If a couple were lucky, mutual respect and possibly friendship developed with time during the course of the marriage. It was a dream of many witches and wizards to find a soulmate, in much the way that muggles dream of winning the lottery and buying a unicorn that can carry them to the moon. No one expects to actually attain it. And yet, it appeared that the good place had done just that for him. Draco drew in a deep breath, his mind moving in a million different directions. If this was true, if he truly had a soulmate, and this person was here, in the good place, his path was clear. He had to do everything he could to stay here. Up until now, to be entirely honest, Draco had been wavering in his resolve to stay here. Yes, the idea of being able to do anything at any time was enticing, but wouldn't that get boring? Perhaps it was better to request that he be lulled into a deep sleep, loaded onto a boat on the river Styx and set ablaze, just to cover all of his afterlife bases. Perhaps to do that would be better than eating banana bread for the rest of his non-existence. But a soulmate changed all of that. If there was truly someone here that was perfectly matched for him, he would be a fool to want to leave. Not to mention, it would deprive this other person of a soulmate as well. He could never be so cruel. When can I meet this soulmate? Draco asked as nonchalantly as he dared. That tinkling laugh again.
In due time, Draco. Why don't you finish your banana bread for now? There's no rush. We have eternity, after all.
They departed the quaint little town square and set off down a winding road, making a right, and then a left, and then another left, as they walked until Draco was nearly hopelessly lost. As they went, they passed a wide variety of homes. There were French-style chateaux, tiny little tin boxes on wheels, large high-rise buildings with modern flats. Draco's gait naturally slowed as they approached an imposing multi-story Tudor-style home that sprawled in all directions. It was visible as soon as they turned onto the lane, and Draco had no doubt that it was their ultimate destination. Ariel strode past it without noticing that he'd slowed down at all, however. They made another right, onto a small, narrow lane, this one with only 4 houses. Draco couldn't help but notice that the sunshine was nearly obliterated here by the presence of the looming Tudor estate behind them. The first house looked like something one might see at the shore, made entirely of aqua blue painted wood and wrap-around porches. That wouldn't be it, he thought. His family, with their pale skin and proclivity for wearing dark clothing, had never been beach people. Another house looked like a green princess castle to match the pink one he saw earlier. He shuddered at the thought, despite the fact that at least it was Slytherin colors. Not that one. A third was a log cabin that Draco imagined some crazed hermit like the oaf Hagrid lived in. It wasn't going to be that one. That left... well, there was nothing better to describe it as than as a gingerbread house. The warm brown stucco exterior was adorned with painted filigree curlicues and window boxes of crisp white. Fanciful white gable millwork trailed along the numerous peaks and eaves of the roof. Colourful flower pots, shaped like gumdrops, lined every windowsill in sight, as well as the little walkway leading to the front door. The door itself looked like a slab of glittering purple sugary nougat. Even the trees out front were shaped into perfect spheres to resemble lollies. "Here we are!" Ariel trilled happily. His first thought was that his soulmate must be some sort of mental psychopath. There was no way that this abomination had sprung from his own imagination. Yes, he had a sweet tooth, and few adults enjoyed a trip to Honeydukes as much as he did. But in no way, shape, or form did that mean he wanted to live inside of a house made of sweets, for Salazar's sake. "Well," Draco tried. He cleared his throat and tried again. It was hard to hear past the pointing and laughing pixies in his head. Quite. We are... here." He drew in a deep breath. Ariel turned to face him, and Draco, despite having only known the woman for an hour or so, could tell that she had some serious information to impart to him once again. He held the deep breath. "A bit about your soulmate before we go in. Whilst she is the same age as you, she actually died several years after you." At Draco's confused expression, Ariel tilted her head in commiseration. "I know. Humans tend to think of time as a linear thing, like it happens on Earth, as though multiple times can't overlap and exist all at once. It's quite limiting, this way of thinking, but rest assured, multiple overlapping timelines can and do exist in the afterlife." He simply shook his head in confusion. He had no idea what this meant. "Another thing you should know is that your soulmate has been here for just a bit longer than you because she was more prepared to be here." At his look of slight annoyance at this, she put up her hands reassuringly. Now, Draco, I'm only saying that she had expected and welcomed death before in her life, and so it wasn't such a frightening prospect to her. Does that make sense? Her psyche was more ready to move on than yours. There's no shame in that. Many humans that come to us are not ready to move on into the afterlife, as wonderful as the prospect of that afterlife can be." He was slightly mollified. It was true. Draco had not been ready for death. As far as he could remember, his life had been going quite well, or at least better than it had. The war had ended a few years or so before, and because of the testimony of a few former classmates, he was exonerated at his trial. Not to say that things had not been difficult. Wizarding Britain wasn't especially happy having a Death Eater run free after the war. But in all, his life had been going as well as could be expected, all things considered. He had gone on a few dates, and was considering options for advanced studies in potions or arithmancy in France, where the admissions boards might not have heard of his past misdeeds. He had been running the Malfoy estate and managing the remaining holdings, as his father had been imprisoned after the war, and his mother had never had a desire to manage the business side of their financial matters. No, he had decidedly not been prepared for death. Ariel continued. "Still, I feel that she has had a hard time adjusting to the afterlife here, in the good place.
It's possible that she simply misses the excitement and socialization she experienced in her former life. We're certain that your presence can only help with that."
Draco nodded. This made sense. Any woman matched to him would likely be a thrill-seeking social butterfly type. It was the type he'd gravitated to his entire life. Mercifully, Ariel was silent after that. That was good, seeing as Draco was ready to jump out of his skin, eager as he was to meet this soulmate. He opened the gate and gestured the woman through, following her to the shimmery lavender-colored front door. Ariel knocked, and Draco could have sworn that she wiped her knuckles against her skirt, as though cleaning sugar dust from the door off of them.
"Come in," a voice called. Something about it stirred a peak of interest in Draco's brain. The sound of it evoked something that felt like a memory or a daydream, a warm hug or a fond glance. He shook his head. Ridiculous, he thought. The chances that he would know this person were next to none, considering how many people were alive, or, that is to say, dead, in the world, particularly if she had died several years after he did, a fact that did not seem possible, and yet there it was. More likely it was the soulmate aspect that made her voice seem familiar and interesting to him. Ariel turned the doorknob that Draco only just realized was shaped like a lemon sherbet, and they stepped inside. Immediately, his senses were assaulted by the most gargantuan screen he had ever seen, either in his life or in his death. The people on the screen were nearly double his height. Thankfully, the sound from the screen did not match its size. Though there was an undercurrent of voices coming from it, it was generally low. Then he noticed that a person sat on the sofa, facing away from him, holding a book. Her luxuriant chocolate curls lay across the back of the sofa, falling softly over her shoulders as she stood to greet them. From the back, Draco admired her figure. She was trim, without being overly thin. Her round hips swayed deliciously as she stood. Well, at least they got one thing right, Draco thought, a smirk playing at his lips. Ariel cleared her throat. "Draco Malfoy, I am pleased to introduce you to your soulmate, Harlow Garamond." The woman faced him now, her familiar copper eyes looking up into his silver ones, burning with an intensity that he had witnessed firsthand, time and time again, in his relatively short life. Her gaze seemed to look into his soul and find him lacking, just as it always had each time the two of them had met on Earth. "Grange," she hurried to speak over him, overemphasizing each syllable. "Garamond. Harlow Garamond. I'm pleased to make your acquaintance. Drake, was it?" The look in her eye maintained that same intensity, but now it was accompanied by something else, something equally familiar. Was it fear? Panic? Whatever it was, it made Draco uncomfortable with how instantly familiar it felt coming from her. "Draco Malfoy," he said quietly, not offering a handshake. She likewise kept her hands to herself, clasped in front of her. It took everything within him not to turn around, throw open the shimmery sugared door, and tear off down the road and back to the town square. "So, I'm certain that the two of you want to be alone so that you can get to know each other," Ariel began, once they had settled themselves in the living room. Draco had chosen the farthest end of the sofa, the only seating surface in the room. Harlow, he snorted to himself, had taken the other end. The woman paused a moment before continuing, but neither of them said a word, so she ploughed on ahead, First, let me tell you a bit about each other. Harlow was a popular British socialite and a staunch vegetarian. She was an enthusiast of fortune-telling and predicting the future, and an intense consumer of pop culture. She knew gobs about all manner of celebrities, actors, athletes, and musicians during her time on Earth. She watched television almost constantly, hence the reason for this. Ariel gestured uncertainly at the massive screen behind her. It is set to be on from 6 in the morning until 10 in the evening, so that Harlow doesn't miss a bit of it. And, of course, it is set to her favourite television programme. Draco, this programme teaches a lot about the real life of muggles, something of which I know you are very passionate about learning. Harlow's head whipped around to stare him down in disbelief, her familiar copper eyes flashing at him. He raised his chin defiantly, cutting his silver eyes back to her. So what? Yes, he could admit it now. He had been quite interested in learning about Muggle life. Was it a crime? Apparently, Harlow thought so. Ariel continued as though she hadn't just witnessed the opening volleys of World War III. Draco, likewise, enjoyed the social life and was quite popular amongst his friends. In his earthly form, Draco was a wizard, but you should not let that scare you, Harlow. Here in the good place, all beings are treated equally. At the other end of the sofa, Harlow made an indistinct sound that Draco heard as "Tcha!" You may be wondering a bit about the architecture of your lovely home, though I'm sure it is somewhat self-explanatory, Ariel said, as though she had not been interrupted. As both of you loved sweets so much, this design only made sense. Draco eyed Harlow carefully. He'd never known Granger to have such a sweet tooth, but apparently she had. He remembered watching her suck on a sugar quill during more than one class at Hogwarts, and recalled seeing her in Honeydukes during their time at Hogwarts, during nearly every visit to Hogsmeade. Not that he had been watching for her, of course. The very idea would have been preposterous. To sum up, Ariel was saying, the two of you were matched for a variety of reasons. You were both quite social, clever, and resourceful. Neither of you were afraid to put yourself out there and enjoy life. You both had large friend groups and admirers on Earth, and they were all quite loyal to you, and you to them. Both of you are quite intelligent, of course, and both of you experienced feelings of abandonment when it came to your relationships with your parents. At this last pronouncement, Harlow flinched noticeably. Draco looked down, uncomfortable at Ariel's words. He had heard the rumours about the fate of Granger's parents, and he knew that calling it feelings of abandonment was probably putting it lightly. So, with all of that said, I'm going to leave the two of you to it. I'm certain that you will get on quite well. You have been meticulously matched for each other, after all. Ariel clasped her hands in front of her, looking back and forth between the two of them. Draco hummed neutrally, neither agreeing nor disagreeing. Harlow made a strangled noise with her throat that Ariel took as a yes. Both of them stood, neither looking at the other, to shake the beautiful woman's hand. "Thank you for escorting me," Draco said warmly. In spite of the extremely odd situation he found himself in, Ariel had seemed like the only thing akin to a new friend that he'd encountered in what felt like some time. He was a bit sorry to see her go. He walked Ariel to the door, opening it for her reluctantly. He really wasn't looking forward to being alone with Hermione Granger. "We will see you both for activities.
in the town square tomorrow morning?" Ariel asked.
"Of course,"
Granger answered brokenly, attempting a smile. "We would miss it," Draco enthused. He closed the door behind the woman and leaned his forehead against it for only a moment, girding his strength. With a massive sigh, he turned to face the witch behind him. "Granger," with an alacrity and forcefulness heretofore unimagined by Draco, except for in his overactive imagination, and also that one time in third year. Granger rammed her left elbow hard into his clavicle, and used her forearm to pin his neck to the wall. Her arm was nearly directly over her head, owing to their height difference, but it seemed to be no bother to her. For his part, he was far too surprised by her sudden actions to move. Her right hand was wrapped around a small twig that she forced into his cheek, the tip digging hard into his alabaster skin. His eyes struggled to focus on it. Where the fuck had she gotten a wand from? "I don't know what kind of sick forking game you are playing here, Malfoy, but you will let me out of it now, you vile plaster. Or, Merlin help me, I will end you. Do I make myself clear?" Thank you for listening to Everything is Fine by Great78. If you enjoyed this story and would like to read more like it, please find me on Archive of Our Own or follow my Spotify channel, Silver and Copper.